let's wrap that up. This segment brought to you by Tycon Partners. Ed, thanks for being a guest on this segment for us, our in-house private equity guy. All right, let's bring on John Vandermosten, Senior Biotechnology Analyst at Zacks, Small Cap Research. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Glad to be here.
Great. Move a little bit closer to the mic, and we'll get moving. Tell our audience your background. I know that you have served our country in the Navy, and you've done some work there. I want to thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Well, so my background goes to, I started out my investment career at Texas Teachers, which is down in Austin, and then actually moved up here to Dallas back about 2005 and worked for a firm called Westwood Management, which is in the Crescent downtown here.
Right.
Then I spent about 3 years with another firm that did a lot of valuations in the healthcare services space called Coker Group, based out of Atlanta. That was a great opportunity to really get in deep and kind of see a lot of the things that are behind the scenes that you don't normally see as an equity analyst.
Okay.
And then about 2 years ago, I started with Zacks working on biotechnology, small cap biotechnology stocks.
All right. Now, I love Zacks. I've known Zacks. They were on my show, on the last show that I had, Traders Network, and I'm glad to have them back and have you here. You want to talk about biotechnology. What's going on in that space? So,
it's an exciting space, Michael. There's a lot of things going on. I wrote down a few points that are kind of really driving what's going on in the space right now. One of them is gene sequencing. There's a chart that is pretty well known out there, looking at the price of sequencing the human genome, and I think it was something like $10 million to do it back in 2001, and today it's less than $1,000, and it's really allowed specialized medicine to come to the forefront and allow a lot of therapies that are focused on individuals that are a lot more effective. And another hot area is checkpoint inhibitors.
What's that?
So a checkpoint inhibitor, the body's cells and the body's immune system communicate with each other, and the cells have receptors on them which tell the immune system whether they're good cells or bad cells. Mm-hmm. And what cancer cells have done they're actually able to hide by telling the immune system that they're good cells. Right. So what checkpoint inhibitors do is they actually eliminate this ability of the cancer cells to say that they're good cells, and the body's immune system attacks them and gets rid of them. So
is that a new hot sector in the biotechnology industry?
Yeah, it's very hot. So two of the key drugs in this space are Keytruda and Opdivo, Merck and Bristol Myers, there respectively. And probably best known is Jimmy Carter's melanoma. A couple of years back, I don't know if you remember, but he was in pretty bad shape, and he took Keytruda, and he was
healed.
He healed, right? Exactly. So I think that was probably the starting point of where Keytruda really started to get a lot of attention all over the place, and it's gathered subsequent approvals in a lot of other areas besides melanoma. So.
Let me change gears for just a second. Getting the drug to market, that seems like a really tough road.
Sure.
Walk us through that.
Yeah, it's a long, time-consuming and expensive process. I mean, there's statistics out there that say it costs anywhere from $500 million to over $2 billion to get something out there, and it takes anywhere from 10 to 15 years. So I can walk you a little bit through the process. It starts out with a lot of work in a lot of computer work. You have in vivo and in vitro work done as well. And then after you finish this preclinical segment, then you work with the FDA to start your clinical trials. And probably a lot of our listeners are familiar with phase 1, 2, and 3 trials. That's a very long process. Phase 1 looks at safety. Phase 2 looks at safety and efficacy. And then phase 3 attempts to look at both of them at once and find, make sure that they're safe and that they work in large populations.
What about valuations? Let's go down that road.
Sure. So valuations are always difficult in the biotech space, in the development biotech space, just because a lot of these guys don't have revenues yet. And you're looking forward, 5 years and trying to anticipate what they might be. So we have a process that we use that employs a discounted cash flow model that tries to anticipate what those revenues will be based on market size, based on the efficacy or anticipated efficacy of the drug, and potential competitors that are out there.
That's got to give you kind of a rough. That's almost really hard to. It's like grease lightning. How do you get your hands on that if you don't know that it's in the market yet?
Exactly right. And I mean, there are many unknowns, and one of the hardest things to know is actually what the future competitors might be, because sometimes there are 3 or 4 different compounds in development for the same indication.
Right.
Maybe only one of them will succeed, or maybe 2 of them will succeed. If one succeeds, it's worth a lot more if the other ones fail. So you have to do a little bit of scenario analysis and probability analysis to put that in place. But one thing that we always recommend is a diversified portfolio that can take advantage of all these different probabilities that you have to attach to the process.
Right. Let's do this. Let's take a break right now. I have a lot more questions for you on the other side of the segment, but John Vandermosten, am I pronouncing it right? All right, perfect. All right, Senior Biotechnology Analyst at Zacks Small Cap Research. That's scr.zacks.com. Segment brought to you by Zacks. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. You've been listening to CEO Money with your host, Michael Yorba. Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. All right, my guest this segment is John Vandermosten, Senior Biotechnology Analyst at Zacks Small Cap Research. Website address is scr.zacks.com. All right, John, welcome back to the show.
Thanks again.
All right, now where we left off, I wanted to pick up on this next topic here. What does Zacks look for in an attractive company?
Right. So again, we're looking at development stage companies mostly in the biotech space, and some people look at these as kind of either yes or no. It either works or it doesn't. But it's a little bit more refined than that. If you have a company that's exposed to a very large market or a company that's exposed to a small market, obviously there's a difference there. You want the one that's exposed to the large market. So that's one thing we look at. I also mentioned the competitive environment before. Clearly, we prefer areas that haven't been as well developed as others. So, in immunology and a lot of these cancer therapies that are out there, some areas haven't been developed as well as others. We actually have one company that's going into the breast cancer space, which, as you may know, is one of the leading cancers for women. There aren't a lot of options out there in immunotherapy right now for it. So they have pretty much a wide open market and a drug that's shown, pretty good efficacy. The company is Oncolytics, by the way. And they
symbol ONC.
Yeah. Yes. ONC. That's right.
Okay.
So they pretty much have that market to themselves. They have a great product, and they've shown efficacy in phase 2 in studies. So we really like these companies like this that have that kind of exposure.
What do you see for the future of that company? I mean, obviously you like it, but I mean, growth, international expansion,
Sure.
Price-wise, earnings. Can you talk about any of those points?
Certainly. So companies generally like to start their development in the United States because it's the largest market. You can charge the highest prices here, and then they usually move to the EU. Mm-hmm. So a company like this, which is a small development stage company, will usually look for a partner for development, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, a lot of these incubating companies are very good at the science side of things, but they haven't really developed a marketing arm. So what they'll do is they'll partner with Merck or Pfizer or one of the large companies that already has a developed sales force and international exposure, mm-hmm. and work with them. And then the company will receive milestones, upfront payments, and royalties. And then that company can use that cash from that to develop the next thing in their pipeline.
Right. I'm going to look at their pricing right now, ONC, and see where they are on the market. But while I'm bringing up my chart on that, let's get back into the specifics of what you're talking about. Titan Pharma, TTNP. What's your thoughts with that company?
Yeah, this is another great company. They actually make an implant that goes into your inner arm, which is called Probufene. It's being developed by a partner, and they receive royalty revenues. The company is only valued at about $40 million right now, and for a company that already has a product that is already generating revenues, plus 3 more in development. Mm-hmm. I mean, we think this is very undervalued based on where it is right now. The 3 other products are focused on another few areas: hypothyroidism, which is a big market as well, and they also are working with a partner to develop another type of product that's for opioid addiction. And their main product right now, which is Probuphene, is actually also for opioid addiction. It helps the individual from feeling the craving. And the thing with their product, which is called Proneura, it has steady release, which is a very important feature to have for addiction, because if you have some kind of cyclical drug delivery over time, you're going to feel cravings during the low point, and then you're going to feel fine during the high point. So what their drug does by being implanted and having a slow release is it actually allows you to flatten out that kind of sine wave, right? So you don't feel these cravings, so that's currently being marketed right now, and we think with a pipeline of 3 other products and one that's already generating revenues, it's worth well more than the $40 million its market cap today.
Where do you think it'll go, though?
I think it could be a triple. They're in phase 1-2 right now for another product for ropinirole, which is for Parkinson's disease.
Right.
This is another large market, and where they really find a niche is where you need steady release. And if you look into Parkinson's disease, you'll notice that the fluctuating levels of the drug are one of the things that causes the tremors, right? So if you're able to flatten that out through a new delivery method, which is their Proneura implant, you're able to address this issue and perhaps solve the problem. So right now they're still in trials. They haven't proved it yet to the FDA, but it sounds very promising based on what we know now about the disease.
And sounds very promising. They proved it to you at this point. At least it's on the watch list. Should I say?
Exactly. All of our analysis looks at things from a probability adjusted basis. And the initial data and the preclinical descriptions that they provided, are very promising in terms of what they'll be able to achieve there. And remember, they already have a product out there that's shown that Proneura works. So, they're using that same technology and just putting a different drug inside the implant.
Let's drill down on how you evaluate the companies, like time to first sale, size of market penetration, things of that nature. Break that out for the audience.
Sure. So time to first sale, that's always a very difficult thing. One of the things I'd say from my experience is it always takes longer than you think. When you're working with the FDA, a lot of times that agency is overworked. And they don't have enough time to really take a look at all of the detail that's provided them. I mean, some of these applications for a new drug are thousands of pages long, right? So sometimes they won't get all the information they need, and they'll kick it back to the company to get some more information. Sometimes that can add a year on to what you initially thought it might take. So that's one thing that you have to put into consideration. So for a normal company that goes through phase 1, 2, and 3 trials, phase 1 may take about a year. Phase 2 may take from 2 to 3 years, and phase 3 could take from 5 to 7 years. And then when you apply to the FDA, you usually think it's going to take 1 year, but a lot of times it gets, as I said, it gets kicked back, and it takes maybe 2 years or more.
Right, I get it. So all 3 of these things, for time to sale or first to market or getting to market, size of the market, the penetration, all 3 of these standards that you look at are it's tripped all the meters for Titan Pharma and Analytics or Oncolytics.
Yeah, Oncolytics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They all have favorable metrics on all those things that I mentioned. So,
In the biotech industry sector itself, we've got a couple of minutes left. What are your thoughts? Because it's been on such a move for the last couple of years. It's better than the 60 to 70 degree incline. And in some cases, this stuff has gone parabolic. Do you see that this is going to continue in that area, or are we going to get up some kind of a plateau and flatline for a little while?
Well, the one thing that's interesting about biotech is that, if you look at a sector like retail or something, it kind of runs together. But biotech is very company specific. And as long as companies are, meeting their goals in terms of their clinical trials and achieving, their primary endpoints, we're going to see those companies do well.
Right.
So that is what's going to drive the sector. And I think, today with all the diagnostic materials that we have, and, one thing I wanted to mention, there was the Nobel Prize in Chemistry just a couple weeks ago. It was in something called imaging biomolecules, cryo-electron microscopy.
Yeah, you say that one, not me.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this is a very fascinating thing that listeners might like to look into because it allows scientists to image molecules, and the Zika virus was used as one example. And what that does is it allows scientists to find other drugs and compounds that will affect them.
Got it. We're going to have to close for now, but you've got research reports that accessible to people who subscribe to Zacks. Is that right?
We sure do. All you need to do is go into scr.zacks.com, as you mentioned earlier, and you can find all of our analysts and see our research there. And you can click on the most recent article without even having to sign up.
How do they find your articles?
You can click on the Analyst and look for John Vandermosten, and you'll see a list of my companies underneath my name.
Perfect. John, thanks for being a guest on the show.
All right. You're welcome, Michael.
All right. And I want to give a big thank you out to Zacks for allowing John to come on the show. Hopefully he'll be back more often. And we're going to go to a break right now. This segment is brought to you by Zacks.com. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba.